What's surprising to me and always interesting to me is Dave has the same energy that he's had from the very first Foo show that he ever played to like the latest one he's playing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Foos Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. It's Dan here, back with your weekly Foo Fighters fix, as always, and it's been a busy one, hasn't it? They're more than halfway through the first section of the North American tour because it's split into two parts between now and September, but that's full steam ahead, which is the primary focus of this week's episode. They've just announced some new dates in South America too for early next year, which is exciting for all the fans over there. And then we've also had the long-awaited second instalment of the Foo Fighters Are Playing Where live EP. So we've had another 6 songs recorded from the pop-up shows in the US a few months back, and they're sounding really, really good. But we're going to dip back into the North American tour this week. I've had messages from a few people who've been out and about on location, and then we're going to talk to Shawna O'Hara, who is the editor at the Chicago Music Guide, to discuss the show at Soldier Field on Saturday, among other things. And then we're also going to do a breakdown of All My Life, the perennial set opener, too, as the latest track on the Foo Fighters A-Z. But yeah, the North America tour so far, they're 4 shows in, and I think the big talking point again really has been the new album, or lack of it. I think so far they've played 1 apiece in Toronto and Chicago, 2 in Detroit, I think, and then none at all in Cleveland. So, I don't know, maybe we'll find out one day, but the mystery rumbles on. Not that it has really hampered anyone's enjoyment of the shows at all, because you don't tend to hear about a bad experience of a Foo Fighters show, do you? But nevertheless, it is just a little bit strange. But on that, I've got messages from 2 from Toronto, 1 from Cleveland, actually. So I'm going to start by reading out this lovely one from Jennifer Caruso, who was a first-timer seeing the Foo Fighters at the Rogers Stadium in Toronto last week. So Jennifer says, "Hi Dan, I've been wanting to send you a note about the 4th of August Foo Fighters show in Toronto, but it has taken me a few days to wrap my head around the whole thing. The evening went by too quickly and I feel like I'm in shock that the concert I'd looked forward to for so long has come and gone. This was my first ever Foos concert and it was a dream come true. I found myself with tears in my eyes quite a few times throughout the evening because I couldn't believe I was actually seeing and hearing the guys live in front of me. I've always enjoyed their music, but I became a super fan in early 2022 when I listened to Dave's audiobook, The Storyteller. I kept pausing the audiobook to look up something on YouTube that Dave had talked about in the book, and I fell down a rabbit hole of music videos, old interviews and documentaries. I even ordered the entire Sonic Highway series on DVD and thoroughly enjoyed it. I fell in love with the whole band, especially the relationship between Dave and Taylor. Midway through the audiobook, I decided I needed to see them live as soon as I could. Then, the day after I finished Dave's audiobook, I woke up to the news that Taylor had died. I was devastated for Dave and of course Taylor's family and the rest of the band and crew. And I was saddened by the realisation that I was never going to get to see Dave and Taylor on stage together. When the Foos announced their Take Cover tour with a Toronto date, I bought tickets for myself, my husband and my 2 kids the moment the pre-sale opened. My husband and kids have been very supportive of my Foo obsession for the past 4 years and have grown to love the band almost as much as I do. The August 4th show at the Rogers Stadium in Toronto was absolutely perfect. It was a beautiful, warm evening, the band sounded amazing, and Dave's voice was on point. Some fans have complained that there aren't enough songs from the new album on the set list, but since it was my first time seeing them, I was glad to hear all the hits. I was also super pleased to hear Wheels and Under You. One of the highlights for the show for me was when Dave and Ilan swapped places during the band introductions. Ilan's guitar solo was awesome, but Dave's raw power on the drums was something else. I could feel the drums in my chest. At one point during the concert, Dave made the comment that since this was their first show in Toronto in 8 years, that meant they would have to come back next year and play 8 shows. I know that was just a joke, but I hope they come back soon because I can't wait to see them again. Thank you for the great job you're doing with the podcast. I enjoy listening every week and feeling like I'm part of a special community. I always listen right to the very end so I can hear your outro. I've been dreaming of the day I would get to sing along to Best of You with a stadium full of fans, and the experience did not disappoint. Take care, Jen. So that was really lovely, and I think I've mentioned a few times on here that Toronto is a place very, very dear to me, and I'd love to be able to see them there one day, and found that absolutely mind-blowing, to be honest with you, that it was the first time they'd been back there in 8 years. So thanks, Jen. Glad the experience lived up for you, and you and your family had such a great time, and also for your continued support of the podcast. But staying north of the border, as they say, in Canada, Kathrin Tofall travelled all the way from Germany for her Foocation, which is a popular phrase now. If you've never been on a Foocation, I would highly recommend it. And she sent us a little voice note review, which I really appreciate because she just got back, suffering from jet lag and a bit of a croaky voice, which, to be honest, are all the symptoms of a great concert trip. So thanks, Kathrin, and here's what she had to say about the Foo Fighters at the Rogers Stadium.
Hello, I'm Kathrin, and I've just come home from my Toronto vacation. We flew in from Germany a week before the show and spent a bit of time exploring Toronto, which is a lovely city. Really recommend it if you haven't been. On Show Tuesday, we went to Rogers Stadium around 1 p.m., got into the general admission queue, and some people had been waiting from almost 6 a.m., I believe. And then we dehydrated further together with everyone in the really hot weather for an hour and chatted and made friends, which was lovely. It's so much fun meeting Foo Fighter fans from all around the world. That's genuinely one of my favorite parts of going to a Foo show. We were talking about the set list, whether we'd get more of the new album, maybe A320, maybe some other deep cuts. And you could feel the excitement for the show in the air, which was nice. As Dave pointed out later during the show, they hadn't been playing over there for about 8 years, so understandably expectations were high. We got led into the merch area around 2 p.m., got our merch then, and waited another 2 hours for doors to open. And meanwhile, listened to the soundcheck for a bit. They soundchecked Wheels, so as a German, I was dutifully hyped about that one. After doors opened, we got a good spot at the rail along the stage walkway, chatted a bit with all the people around us, got some water, and then tried Mannequin Pussy, which I didn't actually know before, but I liked. And, of course, Queens of the Stone Age, which was a ride in itself. They had a really cool and fun set, and because there is an overlap in fan bases, everyone had a really good time with them. And when it was time for the Foos, people really erupted. Everyone was so thrilled to see them again, or for some for the first time, I think. And as we know, the Foos go in full steam ahead, so it was a really adrenaline-filled first couple of songs, which put everyone in a great mood right away. Another highlight for me was the acoustic set on the B stage, especially Marigold, which before this tour they haven't been playing often at all, so everyone was very happy to hear it. They, funnily enough, messed up a chord in Big Me, and the resulting dissonance made Dave laugh. I mean, it's a live show, so these things happen and no one cares. It was just a very funny moment to see. Dave then dedicated Anna You to Shane Hawkins for his birthday, which was really sweet, I think. I really enjoyed the following band introductions a lot. In my opinion, it's a great idea to have them play songs from their old bands, and Chris actually got really excited about a guy who he spotted wearing a No Use for a Name shirt and pointed him out several times later on. And after having seen Elon twice in this setting now, he fits so incredibly well with the band. He is part of the group dynamics and obviously enjoys the heck out of playing the songs. The spoiler alert switch where he plays guitar for his introduction song for the New Regime and Dave plays drums is a treat, honestly. Though Dave's sneaky smells like Teen Spirit teether in the end of it all got him a half frustrated, half joking Why would you do that to us? From the guy standing next to me. I agree, so would have been cool to hear it. Getting to hear Nate sing and play a Sunny Day Real Estate song is such a great throwback to, if you, like me, listened to them before. And then Dave pointed out to Pat during his song section that Mikey from Queens of the Stone Age was wearing a Germs shirt for the opening set of them, which is a really nice tribute, I think. I noticed that the Canadians all went all in for Rami. He got a sing-along to one headlight, at least in our section of the crowd, which honestly he deserves. In the end, we got all the classic songs you would wish for at a Foo show, and I love the big crowd sing-alongs during My Hero, Best of You, These Days, and the lovely Aurora for Taylor. And the Pretender or Stacked Actors are always a really cathartic release. You certainly expect all those songs when you go see the Foos. I just wish they would maybe play their new stuff a bit more on this tour too, and sprinkle in a deeper selection of all the songs. I actually heard 4 songs of their new album in Munich and hope they switched that up on the North American part of the tour. No such luck though. I think they played Caught in the Echo, but that remained the only song from the new album, at least. And my longtime personal deep cut dream song would have been Normal, actually, which they have admittedly never played live ever, so I doubt that will happen anytime soon. At least not at a big show. And to be fair, they had Exhausted on the setlist for the encore, but it wasn't played due to time limits, I think. They ended the show at almost 11 p.m. on the dot after Everlong, and we got a big firework along with it too, which rounded the evening up very nicely. Overall, it was an amazing kickoff for the North American leg of the tour, and I absolutely loved it, and crossing an ocean for it was definitely worth it. And for everyone who's still going to see them on this tour, have as much fun as you can have. It's really always so much fun to go to a Foo show.
You might know this motherfucker. That's right. Tommy Jaffe was in the fucking Wallflowers, and we fucking stole him. Come on, like a Wallflower show, let's do it.
And then finally, good old Kim Hearn, our good friend, who's now become our international roving reporter for the podcast. She put together a little report for us from Cleveland when she was just about to depart for Philly for the next stop on the tour. So here's what she had to say about the Cleveland experience, and also, as always with Kim, it's very thorough. She says, "We started the day with a massive storm while in the queue. Fortunately, we did have some shelter, which luckily didn't blow away. After that, we ended up with hot sun and everyone was roasting. Getting in wasn't quite straightforward, usual hold-ups of scanning issues and having to get scanned again and collect another wristband for the pit. Wasn't great, but I've had a lot worse. I secured a spot on Pat's side of the B stage. Happy to report that we had another moment with Dave during the intro to All My Life. So that's in reference to Vienna when Dave spotted Kim and her husband Steve in the crowd, which you've probably seen online. The same thing happened. He looked and then the penny dropped. The most notable parts of the show were Dave was quite nostalgic about being in Ohio, talked about his grandparents, mum and the area. Ilan seems to be getting more mini solos in addition to the big one in Monkey Wrench. I'm pretty sure there's been a tweak to No Son of Mine in the jam, which I liked. The set list we had run this time. I saw one copy and the teacher wasn't listed, but 2 of the new tracks were, but in the end it was played and dedicated to Virginia. Dave gave a shout out to the Foo Fathers. They were featured on the local news and asked if they were here. They were, hope they got their shots. So I believe Foo Fathers are a local tribute band, and it just shows, following on from Lisbon, Dave watches the local news just about everywhere he goes. But anyway, Kim continues, the energy of this year's shows has been amazing from the fans and the band. Obviously some of that comes with having Ilan on board, which maybe then fuels Dave to play even harder. He certainly was soaked in sweat by the end of the show. Another interesting thing, unless I'm mistaken, he didn't play a DG 335 all night. Seemed very strange not playing one forever long. 3 hours seems to have skipped by very quickly, and now I'm currently in Philly ready to do it all over again. That's an interesting one about the DG335. That's a great spot. So if anyone can verify that, and if anyone knows why, would absolutely love to know about that. But as always, thanks again, Kim, and enjoy the next stops on your latest Foo adventures. Now then, on to the main part of the episode. It's Shawna from the Chicago Music Guide, who I spoke to the day after the gig at Soldier Field. She's also a massive Queens of the Stone Age fan, who are, of course, the support act on this tour. They're intrinsically linked to the Foo Fighters. They're one of the many acts Dave has played and toured and recorded with over the years, but we haven't really touched on their role in this tour yet, so it was good to do that with Shawna. And then, as mentioned, we carry on the Foo Fighters A to Z with All My Life, the perennial set opener, and by far the most famous of the songs we've tackled so far. And we recorded this on Sunday afternoon Chicago time in the midst of a huge thunderstorm, which does come out in the early part of the recording, but at least for Shawna and everyone else's sake, it didn't happen 24 hours earlier on show day. So, brilliant to welcome to the podcast, Shawna. Still high from seeing the Foo Fighters at Soldier Field in Chicago last night. How you doing?
Doing great. Life changed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I mean, I know you've been really busy because it was Lollapalooza last weekend to the Foo Fighters this weekend. So yeah, lots going on over there for you.
A lot going on in Chicago as always, but topping it off with the Foos. Can't get better than that.
Yeah, sure. So, mentioned like Lollapalooza, you were there in your role as editor of Chicago Music Guide, and I guess the name's quite self-explanatory, but do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Chicago Music Guide has been around for about 20 years. It was started by the great Dennis Kelly, and he's now essentially handing it over in a way to a more women-focused editor-based group. So myself and my editor-in-chief, Alina, and I are heading that up and trying to, kind of put our name and face and stamp on that, and really bringing in really dynamic women writers and photographers and photojournalists to cover all different kinds of events around Chicago, primarily music, but, we love good culture and things like that. So arts and culture and music, and just sort of getting, Chicago-based bands too, making sure that they get their 5 minutes and, that they're launched if we can. And it's really rewarding and it's a lot of fun.
No, it's great. I was kind of following your Lollapalooza coverage or following your posts on Instagram. It's great because, I mean, I guess it's great for people who are coming into town to see what's happening in Chicago, but also just to find out about new bands generally. So, I think I saved a few of the bands that you were posting about just to check out when I've got 5 minutes to have a listen to. And it's great for, there's not a lot of that in the music press these days. So it's great to have, that kind of outlet for it. So as you say, to give bands their 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I caught some really great acts. I don't know if you've heard of, I mean, I'm sure you have, but there's Amble, and they're out of Ireland, and they were incredible. Really blew me away. Got to talk to those guys. They were great. And, we briefly chatted about Villanelle and how incredible they are. Wonder Horse, I mean, that's going to be they're going to launch hard. They're already, big, but it's so exciting to see. They had a really big stage at Lolla and a great time slot too. But there was just so many up and comers that, really this was their big shot, and it's always great to see, follow them where they go after that.
Yeah, we were saying Villanelle, just like it's making me feel really old because you've got Villanelle like Gene Gallagher, and then you've got the likes of like Violet Grohl, and so all my favourite musicians, their kids seem to be doing all these great things in the business now, and yeah, it's just making me feel really, really old.
I'm right there with you. Same thing. I'm like, I remember when Violet was a baby, and now she's out there killing it. It's very, very surreal.
Yeah. So what else is hot on the Chicago scene at the moment then?
Yeah, we've got a few acts that I think are going to be quite important. I just spoke with the band. They're called the Deadbolts. They're out of the south side of Chicago. They just went on a little mini tour. They're going to go back on the road, I believe, in a couple months, and then they'll show up back here in Chicago towards the end of fall. But they're great rock. It's a great rock revival here in Chicago. There's some good grunge coming up too, like new grunge. But the Deadbolts, I shout them out because they're just so authentic, I think, and they're just kind of down home South Side Chicago dudes that just, seem to be, making their way through, and they've got real jobs, and it's kind of like this second coming for them, and they're just really, like I said, authentic, and their sound is very unique. I think it's a good mix of rock and something that just sort of feels like almost like new 90s, which I really like. So shouting them out, they're great. And there's a lot of great artists that have come through. I just took photos for Kim Gordon came through. That was a really big deal. We've got a bunch of things happening. We've got Riot Fest coming up here in September, and Chicago Music Guide will be covering that as well. I'm hoping to try to get an interview with Violet on that circuit and, highlight some of the great female acts that are going to be there.
That's brilliant. Really cool. Plenty to look out for there then. So good stuff. Yeah. So on to last night then, Soldier Field, obviously pretty iconic venue in itself, but yeah, Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age as well. So I know you're a big Queens of the Stone Age fan who I've seen, obviously follow sort of daily all the Foo Fighters coverage from every show. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about Queens of the Stone Age yet, which I was quite surprised about. But first and foremost, tell us about your sort of general experience of the day, because you made it to the rail, didn't you?
Made it to rail somehow. I really just don't even know how. The process of getting in was quite the rigmarole. It was a lot. It involved stashing purses in bushes. So, just trying to get in was a feat in and of itself. And this was my first time on rail. The last time I saw them a couple years ago on the Everything and Nothing at All tour, it was just a couple rows back, but we ended up, saw Mannequin Pussy. They were incredible. So it was the opener. And they had a great turnout, and a lot of their fans, once they were done, left the pit, and I just moved in and was not, I was absolutely staking my claim and did not move. That was fantastic. So worth it. And then Queens just blew me away. I could have done 7 more hours of them and not even thought a second thought about the fact that my knees were buckling and my feet were killing me. It was amazing.
So did you get about 45 minutes, an hour of Queens?
Yeah, they did a full tight hour, minute to minute, full tight hour. They were really cool opening. They always have a cool opener out there. There's always very interesting music. And so they have right now you might have seen this crazy Afternoon Delight montage that they have where it comes a little monstrous at the end, and it's so appealing in such a Queens way. It's ominous. And then they came out and they played such a set that I thought was really, really interesting. They came out with Regular John, and they played I believe Time and Place and Domesticated Animals, and just these songs that you're kind of like, what? If you're not necessarily a Queens fan, you're not singing along to these songs. And that's the kind of stuff that I think Josh Homme and those guys are such geniuses for, is they are not playing to please everyone. They're out there kind of doing their thing and having fun. And that is so palpable. And I knew every word, but they really, really set out to just kick ass and have their time, and they did it.
No, that's cool. I'm not a huge Queens of the Stone Age aficionado by any means. I think I saw them once in 2008 at Leeds Festival, and they played before Rage Against the Machine, actually, which was that was quite a full on sort of lineup. But yeah, did they play Feel Good Hit of the Summer? I absolutely love that song.
I love that song so much. They did not play that. I was hoping to get I Love Misfit Love. They already played that on, I believe in Toronto, they opened with that. So I was hoping for that. They didn't play either of those. They did a lot of obscure songs, and then they did I Appear Missing, just to bring the house to a very somber place before they went into Go With the Flow and No One Knows and Song for the Dead. So, they didn't do a lot of Era Vulgaris. It was just sort of a mix and match.
Yeah, and obviously Dave was side stage, wasn't he? Nodding along to his boys, yeah. So.
I started this ripple because I just sort of did a double take. I was zooming in. I was trying to get pictures of Mikey. I was trying to do everybody. And I was like, that is Dave. This is wild. And I took this very close video of Dave kind of bopping around. And I heard people behind, and they were giving me their phones. Like, would you record this for me? So I was like, taking requests and getting in. And yeah, he was enjoying himself quite a bit.
No, great stuff. No, I'm really, really jealous that you, I mean, the support acts we had over here for Liverpool were good. But yeah, I think everyone was really jealous in UK and Europe that you got Queens. It's like, yeah, it's a double header, really, isn't it? It's a Foo Fighters show, but it's effectively a double header when you get a support act like that magnitude.
Yeah. Like I said, when the hour was up, it was almost depressing. Like I'm the diehard Foo, but I was just like, we need another hour of this. This is, it was a good amuse-bouche, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, great. So then it's like Foo's showtime. Talk us through.
Yeah, so the set was a little bit. It was surprising in that it wasn't surprising, right? So they came out to All My Life. No surprise there, and went into the Pretender. But what's surprising to me and always interesting to me is Dave has the same energy that he's had from the very first Foo show that he ever played to like the latest one he's playing. So he came bursting out, the crowd is going insane. Everyone nuts for it. When all My Life, people were just up and down for that. And going straight into the Pretender, it was just like a gigantic 45,000 person sing along from start to finish, that entire show. They did, and people have been talking about it a little bit, I understand that, but they did a great job with introductions. I know that in the past they, each play a little bar of something if they can. Nate hates doing it, but they do it. Now they're going out and everyone is playing a snippet from the former bands that they were in. And that's incredible. And there are clips out there, and I was so excited to see Elon and Dave trade places. That was incredible. What struck me and surprised me, and I, was checking out set lists prior to going into this, is how little they focus on your favorite toy. And we got one song, Caught in the Echo, and nothing else. So it was a little shocking.
That's been the sort of elephant in the room the whole tour, I think. And, they've just brought out that second volume of the Foo Fighters Are Playing Where, the live release the other day. And it's even more frustrating because the new songs on that sound so good.
Yeah. Like
Window sounds brilliant on it, and your favourite toys. And I think of all people's the other new one. And you kind of going, this is great. And like as good as it is, I'm not sure I particularly needed another live version of My Hero necessarily, but
right.
The new,
we heard that.
Yeah, the new songs all sound great, and you're like, considering he talked up, this is an album that was built for the stage, and we feel like we could get up and play it, but like we just play it then. Play it. I mean, we were lucky. Night 2 Liverpool, we got 3, and that feels like they were really stretching themselves there. Yeah. That
is shocking. I'm trying to make sense of it. I don't know if you've heard any rumblings about it.
Nothing.
One song that I love well, first of all, Window is incredible. I mean, you can't not love Window. It's beautiful, even though it is truly about a window cleaner, according to Dave. But, I think what would play extremely well in a stadium would have been Spit Shine. And I was just praying and hoping that they would maybe hit it just to see. And Caught in the Echo was actually kind of a shocking one for me. Not even your favorite, not even title track. So I'm not disappointed by any means because it's Foo Fighters. I'm never going to be disappointed. But I will say it was very much like, yeah, this was just like 2024 tour. And where's the latest stuff that we're all hoping to hear? It's strange.
Yeah, it's funny you said about the familiarity with the set list and his energy because, like, to their credit, you can kind of almost roll them off. All My Life, Pretender, Times Like These, blah blah blah. And they never once look like they're going through the motions. And you sort of think, well, they must at some point go. Well, they obviously don't get bored of playing the same songs, do they?
Right. And you should see. I mean, everyone knows who's been to a show, but and I'm preaching to the choir. But I love watching Pat. if you can get a glimpse of him, because that guy's having the most fun. And Dave actually commented on that last night. He said, he's like, I've known him 35 years. This guy, he looks like he's having fun. Just look at his face. He's having more fun than you think he's having. And I loved that because it is extremely obvious. And I think it brings the audience in too. Cause yeah, you're, like you said, rattling off these songs. No one's sick of hearing My Hero. We love that song. We're there for that. But how many times have they played that? And Pat is just like going nuts as if this is the first time he's ever played it or first time he's been on stage, and he's a legend. So I do love that they are able to, have this really tight set. The thing is too, is there was a lot of banter from Dave, but it didn't really kind of mess anything up in terms of flow. They were very quickly song into song into song, and turning that over. But yeah, truly, I can't stop thinking about it. I think my biggest takeaway is, where's that new album? And it's not a criticism. It's just more of
it's a mystery, isn't it?
It's total mystery. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned his stage chat. Anything in particular? Because everywhere with Dave, he's always a people pleaser. Everywhere is always the most fun place and the most fun night of the tour and blah blah blah. But obviously Chicago's it's a special place for him, isn't it? So I just wondered how much he talked about that at all.
He did I think maybe 3 different things. The first thing he said, I want to say, was he thought was the biggest show they'd ever played in Chicago, which I can't verify. I feel like maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But Soldier Field is quite large. And then later on, he mentioned, and I can't remember what song he was going into, but he did say, he was like, everyone knows, and I've said it a million times, but Chicago is so important to me. And the first band I ever saw was Naked Ray Gun at the Cubby Bear, and it changed my life. And they went into one of their, must have been like Monkey Ranch or something like that. I can't really remember, but he stated the importance of the city, as he always does. And then one thing I love that stood out to me was right before the teacher, he dedicated that to Virginia, his mother, but also said, thank you for introducing us and keeping us in touch with the Bradford family, which is, they're very much family. And I believe that is the family that he was with when, his quote unquote cousin Tracy, that introduced him to Naked Ray Gun and really got him into punk rock. So I love that he honored them and brought them up a couple times with the teacher. And he did seem quite emotional in that moment as well.
Yeah, and he mentioned Steve Albini. Was it Marigold he dedicated to?
He did.
Yeah.
That got a huge round of applause, and a lot of people, it was that just hearing that is emotional. Steve was, so cool. Wish I could have known him, but yeah, that was a great shout.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, the band intros, obviously, as you said, got a lot of traction online and a lot of big talking point from the shows. But yeah, it's previously, as you say, they've played those snippets, and you've kind of gone, oh yeah, fine, but they could fit another 2 Foo Fighters songs in here. But actually, it was nicely done this time, and it's made me, I didn't know, obviously knew the Germs and knew a bit about Elon's solo kind of project, but the other stuff, it's made me go away, and I knew about the Wallflowers, but I've had that song on like constantly because I didn't know I didn't realize what a hit it was until I kind of dug into it more after the show. So yeah, nicely done.
Yeah, very nicely done. The whole, I'm glad you brought up the Wallflowers for Rami, because the whole stadium sang that song, and personally I think that album is incredible, from the Wallflowers. And Dave was making up words because he just did not know the words, and everyone was laughing, but the whole stadium sang it, and he was like, I'm shocked at how many people know One Headlight. So that was impressive. I really loved too, what I thought was special was, for everyone's song that they got to choose and play, there was a montage of old photos of them in the back. And so there were some really great photos, and I have some, I'll post them later tonight, but Dave with Nirvana and Dave with Scream and things like that. And then young Pat Smear is the greatest thing of all time. Can't get enough of that.
Yeah, and he's still got exactly the same facial expression, still the big permanent smile on his face. Yeah.
Exactly. I know. I want to be reincarnated as Pat Smear if that happens. It's a good life.
Yeah, everybody wants to be more Pat Smear, be more Pat. Yeah, so happiest man, and if you, like, even that Violet interview that she did recently, and they sort of threw a bit of a curveball and said, "So who's your favourite member of the Foo Fighters?" And she goes, "Sorry, Dad, I think it's Pat."
Yeah, for good reason. He's the coolest man alive.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, any other key takeaways from the gig, or highlights or moments?
Yeah, I mean, where to begin? First of all, they did a really great thing. You know, they had this great stage build out where they kind of come out into the crowd and play to the pit, but those that are further back and behind. And I turned to see where Dave was going because he runs up and down. And I saw, you know, there was a little like white keyboard out there and a whole set. There's a drum set. Like, where did this come from? We were all paying attention to, you know, what was at the front stage. And they came out and played, you know, like a little bit of a somewhat acoustic set-ish to the crowd there. And they did Big Me. And for me, that was a big deal because I have a Foot Toast tattoo. And you know, that song is just, it's never played anymore. And obviously, you know, the Mentos thing has everything to do with that. But that, I got super emotional for that. I mean, there were like tears. That's such a special song. And I was so little when that came out, and it was, you know, maybe the first Foo Fighters song I ever heard. And I remember the music video. And so when that happened, it was big. And that was a total sing along. People went nuts. And then they stayed out there for Marigold, of course, and Under You, which was just Dave solo. And that had a great reception as well.
The Big Me thing, I don't think I'll ever forget that from Liverpool, because obviously they got the Mentos guy, Mark, in his costume on stage. But it was like, not only was it a great stunt, and it's like ruined anybody ever trying to go to a concert in a costume now. It's kind of raised the bar completely. It's ruined it for everybody. But just the joy it brought to everyone in the stadium, it really did. Like, I won't say it made the night, because you know, there was like all sorts of reasons that made the night special. But there was just, because, you know, at stadium shows, you get hardcore fans, you get newer fans, you get more casual people who don't know, they only know sort of the hits and stuff. But just everybody universally were just like, this is so much fun. And the band were all like having a good laugh about it. And then when he went off stage, Mark, Dave just kind of said, he went off script a bit and just went, do you know what? I love it at these shows when things just take a bit of a weird turn and get a bit loose and fun. And they just really, really loved doing that. It was so cool.
I am envious of that moment because of the way it blew up, and I saw it and I was like, this guy's a genius. I love this so much. To go out and find a Mentos costume. And that is such a thing that Dave would appreciate, you know? So, I mean, well done. Well done.
Yeah, say it's ruined costumes or attempts to get on stage now forever. So
absolutely.
All right, motherfuckers, let's dance. Ready?
Thanks for sharing the sort of experience of the show with us. Moving on a bit now, we've been doing this Foo Fighters A to Z on the podcast, so we like to get our guests to help me sort of tackle the next song on the list, and we're still very much on the letter A. We're very early in, and funnily enough, it's All My Life is the next one, which we're going to talk about. And I mean, interestingly, we've kind of been into deep cuts so far. We've had A320, we've had A Matter of Time, we had Ain't It the Life last time, but we've got one of the real kind of like big hitters to go on here, All My Life. I think if you stopped someone in the street and said, can you name 10 Foo Fighters songs, if they could name 10, it'd probably be in there. And I mean, I'd actually been, people who listen to this every week will probably know I'd actually been advocating it for it to be put on the bench really as the set opener, just because, you know, I've been to 7 Foo Fighters shows and they've opened like 6 of them with it, and it's been the opener since forever. But actually at Liverpool, when they ran on stage and played it, there was a sort of a reminder where I went, actually, do you know what? It reminds me that I'm at a Foo Fighters show and why I keep coming back. So it gets I'll take it all back now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a staple for a reason. The reception that it gets is always, just a roar. And people know to expect it. They know to expect it coming right out of the gate, and they don't care. And I'm one of those people. I am people. It's exactly. I think that's a great way of putting it. Is like, okay, well, now you're at a Foo show because they've done all my life, and everyone's had their moment with it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to when it was recorded, I guess it was talked last week about There's Nothing Left to Lose when I did Ain't It the Life, and that album was kind of relative like serenity for them. Dave was back home in Virginia, and then you move on to One by One, and then the chaos is back, and they've nearly kind of torn themselves apart again. And around the time they started recording, Taylor had his overdose, and then David decided they aborted the sessions, and Dave had gone off to do his Queens of the Stone Age thing, and there was the whole sort of hoo-ha about that, and as we learnt in the Back and Forth documentary. So yeah, it's all born out of a bit of one of many chaotic periods for them, really.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like you can hear it in that song and the way it was developed, because one thing I know about All My Life is that they kind of were, it was, I believe, in him and Taylor, right? It was Dave and Taylor kind of just messing around and had this little, it was more of like an instrumental, they were saying. And at one point, a producer, I wish I could be accurate with this, but someone in production said, hey, that's it, that's a song. And it turned into something, bigger than they thought it would be. And it has that feel to it of like, I'm letting it all out. I'm laying it on the table. And I think it's so fitting for that time, which was very turbulent in Foo Fighters lore, with, some rumors like, are they coming back? Are they going to break up? Which, those have always kind of hung around. But for One by One, I think it's the right way to kick it off and to introduce that album and introduce, that specific song to an audience of gigantic proportion. I think that, we said it's been there, done that, but it's a great opener.
Yeah, you're right. I think he did say consciously, I mean, it was, I think John Silver, their manager, actually said this should be the lead-off single. And Dave was like, really? Is that going to be one that people are going to, again, this inner battle and this kind of bashfulness that he, insecurity he has about his own writing, I guess. And he was kind of like, really? But I think at the same time, consciously, he wanted to come back with something kind of harder and louder than they'd done previously. Because, I mean, what was the single before that? I think it was The One. But then they'd done, Next Year and Learn to Fly and stuff like that, which were a bit less in your face, I suppose.
Yeah. The One is great. That's a good, one-off, and that one was really, really fun. And that was, when that came out, was one of those things where like, yeah, this is the Foo Fighters. They're back. Like, this is it. And it just, everyone has that sound where you know exactly who it is. And it's along the same lines, I say, as The One. Yeah.
Yeah, you make a good point actually about it starting out as an instrumental, and Dave's kind of said, I'm not really sure how I'm going to sing a vocal line over this. It actually turns out to be one of his most interesting vocals, because it kind of starts with a bit of a whisper, but it's got melody in it and it's got screaming in it. So it's kind of got his whole range in there, really.
Yeah, I love that. There's, I remember first hearing that song and thinking, this is Dave, but it's a little unexpected and I like it and I want more of this. Almost like an addiction to whatever that composition was. And feeling sort of, when The Pretender came out, it just sort of felt like that was like salt and pepper. Those just two, they went together so well. And I love that they, go into that first and second song and this tour. But that whisper straight to that really gritty Dave scream. You can say All My Life and you can hear that chorus immediately, or at least I can.
Yeah, it just absolutely soars, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you heard the version they scrapped? I think Taylor called it the $1 Million Demos, because they did this version at Conway Studios and before they went to 606, and they basically finished the album, and then this was when they decided this isn't good enough. We're gonna scrap it. And I think again, John Silver was behind that and said, "Yeah, don't think this is, excuse the pun, this is the one." I think the recordings of, I suppose we're in the era of like Napster and LimeWire and stuff back then. So the original recordings got out, but the version of All My Life that they originally recorded, it just sounds so sterile and restrained compared to the single version that we actually got there, like chalk and cheese.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of putting it. I wonder if I heard it back in those days, but I can't recall now. And now that is going to be the first thing I do the moment this is over. I'm going to go hunt that down somewhere. Because I do love that. It's almost like a mythical song in a way that it feels like it was under wraps, right? For like a little while where they're like, not this one. And there was a back and forth about that. And for it to come out and be just such a favorite and an anthem in a way, to hear that this just almost didn't exist for them is wild to me.
You get that though a lot with a lot of bands. It's the unexpected one where it wasn't. You how many times have you heard a band talk about a single and they'll go, "Oh, it wasn't even a contender to be on the album for a time," and then it's just resurrected. Or you'll hear an artist that's been sitting on something for 10 years and then they go, "Oh, I'm gonna have another chip away at this song," and then it sees the light of day eventually and goes massive. So it's all part of the magic of songwriting, isn't it? That
truly is. And I think Dave has talked a lot about how songs, he will hold on to a song until it's perfectly there, and then eventually he lets it go if he can't get it somewhere. But with this one, I think there's something very Dave is Dave, and he's mythical in his own way, but it's almost humanizing, going, he just didn't think this was good enough at one point. And it's shocking and surprising, because like I said, it is such an anthem and it is so revered and people love it and they're not going to stop. I mean, this is just one of those songs that I never ever skip it. I could have them on shuffle and I still won't skip it to this day.
No, I think I'm with you on that one, despite what I said about it. I don't know. I must have just been on one when I said about dropping it as the opener and just wanting. I think we were just all in that place where we wanted them to do something a bit radical and shake it up. I suppose.
Yeah. I think I still want that. I have to be honest. I do think I still want a different opener. I would never want them to get rid of it on the set list, but I think. Yeah, there are the bands that they've been touring forever. It's 30 years, 31 years of Foo Fighters. And I see why they use it. I see why it's the perfect opener. But at the same time, I think a lot of us are ready for something else. Don't take it off the list altogether, but let's start with something else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I wasn't saying put it in the bin altogether.
Chuck
just,
it. Yeah.
just drop it down a bit. Yeah. Lyrically, bit of an interesting song. Yeah. We can kind of gloss over it a little bit for those with sort of sensitive ears, but yeah, it's one of the rare ones that he has talked about. But yeah, just leaves to, if you don't know what we're talking about, it just leaves a bit to the imagination. So
sure does.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Yep. Yeah. And it has, and I will leave it at that as best I can, but it has been explicitly put out there by Dave. So good for him.
But for a guy that kind of doesn't talk a lot about his lyrics, and I've said before, he usually just leaves stuff up in the air to you to go, well, you interpret it how you want to interpret it. So to then just put that on the table for us, you're like, thanks, Dave.
I think in that era too, if you go back and watch some old interviews of Dave when they started really picking up, and now they're the Foo Fighters, right? Like he was a little bit spicier in his interviews, and he was more willing to be a little provocative. So I think now, would he have said it now? I don't think he would have. Who's to say? But I do like that at one point he was just like, forget it. Here we go. This is exactly what it is.
He could have been taking the piss as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he was, but
no, I don't. But he could have. He could have been. It gives whoever did that interview. It gave them a good line, didn't it? It's stuck around. It's followed him around for the last 20 odd years. So
sure has.
Yeah. So other interesting thing about this particular song is the video, because I mean we talked about Big Me earlier, and they went through this phase of doing all these kind of parody, spoof, comedy like videos, and then this one you've just got straight performance video performing in an empty arena, and there must have been some kind of reason at the time where it's never been explained, but it's just quite an about turn really to go from that comedy style to here's us on a stage. I suppose we're led to believe there's a big crowd there, and then the sort of reveal is right at the end that they're just playing in front of absolutely no one.
Yeah, and I think there's a really good contrast with that, because the song itself is so powerful that you can only hear it, when I'm thinking about that song. It's so loud and it's just got such presence. And for them it's that juxtaposition of like this incredibly loud song for no one. It's like, it's cheeky in a way. It's not their overt comedy, and maybe they didn't even mean for it to be that way. Like you said, there's no real explanation, but to me, there's a little bit of comedy in that, in which it's just, this is the loudest song and you're going to play it really loud and we're going to do it and no one's going to be there for it, and that's okay. We could have sold this out. But it's an interesting departure from their comedy videos, and at the same time they go right back into that. I think that now they're sticking to that, like, as best they can. Although on this new album there's videos that aren't quite so comical. But this one I think was, like you said, a sharp left turn, and I do wonder if there's a wink with that.
Probably. It's never been explained. So a couple of interesting facts on there. Well, it's Chris's first video as well.
Shifty. Getting in there.
He just looks so young. I know it's obvious, but he looks like so baby faced in that video.
He is. They showed some old pictures of him, and not far from that era, and it is so funny to go, wow. I almost feel like we saw them grow up through the videos. It's crazy from start to finish.
Yeah, and then the other fact about that video that I only just learned actually when I was researching this. So obviously at the very start it shows the Forum, which is like their home turf now. Every time they play there, it's like a sports team playing a home game, because they just keep going back there. So we're led to believe that it's filmed there. Apparently it's filmed at the arena in Bakersfield. So they've done the exterior shot of the Forum, and it's not even filmed in there. So again, explain that one. Very strange.
That is strange, and there's no reason. It's inexplicable. They haven't said anything.
No, it must have just been I don't know. There's probably some really boring logistical reason why they use that place, whether it's smaller, whether it was just available, and I don't know. But
that is interesting. Yeah. I did not know that either. That's actually a shock to me.
No, well, I learned that about 40 minutes ago. Well, okay, maybe a bit longer than that, but yeah. So when I was just putting a few notes together, I was like, okay, it's a useless fact.
Yeah, well, useless but interesting. I was just thinking how that's just one of the many, many Foo facts that just there's no rhyme or reason, and that we're aware of, right? But they all know. And I just would love for there to be like someone who just puts out a book and says, you've wondered about these 90 things, and this is what's happening with Foos, and this is why this happened. And I'm like, come on, Dave, do a tell-all, do something.
Yeah, like
wild.
a sort of not like a myth-busting book, but just it explains a few of these mysteries. Yeah, some
factoids, we could use them. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great stuff. Any other last thoughts on All My Life before we wrap that one up?
I just think for the album, it is so the standout, and that's not any kind of revelation, but I think that is the one where you're like, oh, if you didn't know it was a single, you could pinpoint that as a single. I think that album, I actually really love that album, but I know that it's sort of polarizing and that, not everyone loves it. And the order in which it came to, coming off of Nothing Left to Lose, is just sort of, that's maybe the issue with that is that, you know, you're such a high bar and kind of what's going on. Like you said, in between, there's a lot that happened, and it's very, I think, reflective of that. But like I said, that is just an all-timer for me. You know, you can't get rid of it. And it's so good. It's so good.
I think when we were talking about set lists earlier, I think you can read between the lines about which albums they've got a lot of love for and which ones they not so much. You can,
yes.
you can look at which songs are away and which eras are always represented and which ones aren't, and it's kind of so obvious. And I think that album probably, albeit we've mentioned All My Life, always gets played in times like these, and occasionally they've been dropping low over the past 12 months or so, but there's not, you can kind of tell there's not a lot of love there for that album, and it is probably, as you say, because of memories of that period.
Yeah, very, very possible. And they have a million songs too, so it's like it's a little bit different to parse out which would, you know, fulfill an audience. That album's great. I think there's so many hits on that, and I think it plays really well start to finish. But that's absolutely a standout. Yeah,
excellent, great stuff. So just to finally, then, I mean, we talked about a bit about Chicago scene to start with, and your gig at the Chicago Music Guide. So what's next for you, show wise? What have you got coming up? Who are you looking forward to checking out in the coming months?
Yeah, so that's going to be Riot Fest, I think, for me. There's a couple of things. I'm actually going to end up seeing Violet, flying out to the East Coast to check her out. She's doing Riot Fest, so she can't play too close to Chicago, and I've got some friends out on the East Coast. We'll be checking her out. Really excited to see her in a smaller venue and see how she does after Riot Fest. So Riot Fest is coming up September, and that will be another 3 days of absolute madness. There's going to be some really great acts there. In my old days as, you know, everyone's emo phase that may or may not still be there, I'm going to be seeing Taking Back Sunday, and they're playing an album all the way through, and that'll be fantastic. And then really excited about Hometown Guys. Smashing Pumpkins will be coming and doing an arena show for us here.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, very excited for that. But there's a ton of things coming up. I'm actually flying out to Australia in December to see Queens of the Stone Age with Primus. So that'll be
wow.
Books. Yeah.
Getting the air miles in as well then.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, only they could bring me out that far. I'm really excited.
Great stuff. Well, enjoy. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
You as well. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast.
So thanks to Shawna, it was great to chat to her, and if you're not from Chicago or even planning on visiting, it's still well worth looking at the guide if you're just into discovering new music generally, because as she alluded to, you'll probably read up on some bands that weren't on your radar previously. And just to cover off a few facts and figures on All My Life, it was of course the lead-off single and first track from One by One. Released in September 2022, it spent 10 weeks atop of the Billboard alternative charts and also reached number 5 in the singles chart here in the UK. It won the Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance the following year, which ironically one of the songs it beat to win the Grammy was No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, so Dave was destined to be a winner in that category one way or another, it seems. There were 2 CD formats available for the All My Life single. The first had a cover of Sister Europe by the Psychedelic Furs, and then an original song, Win or Lose, as B-sides. Disc 2 had Danny Say's cover of the Ramones song, and then The One, which seems quite strange because it was the previous single, but then I'm guessing it's because there was only one copy of each format for The One that they decided to put it on the All My Life B-side just so that everybody else could own a physical version. Live history? Well, I mean, it's never not in the set, is it now? It's been played live more than 860 times and counting. The first of those was at the House of Blues in Anaheim on the 7th of February 2002, and the last was in Cleveland a couple of nights ago. So that's track 4 on the A to Z done, and next on the list is Alone and Easy Target, one of my favourites from the debut album, and Kurt Cobain approved too, so that one will be fun. Drop me a line if you've got any thoughts on Alone and Easy Target. And then finally, just back on the tour front, it's Philadelphia tomorrow, Nashville on Saturday, and then Washington DC on Monday before they take a break for a few weeks. So if you are going to any of those, we'd love to hear from you. foosfilespod@gmail.com. Drop us a voice message or a written account and we'll make sure it gets featured. It helps paint a nice detailed picture of how the tour's going for all of our listeners who maybe haven't had a chance to get to one of the dates just yet. That's it for this week anyway, covered off quite a lot there. Thanks as always for listening. Don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on the socials @Foos Files Pod. In the meantime, take care and I'll see you next time.